Largest tax cut in American history.
When Republicans are in power, the first thing they want to do is give tax cuts to the rich.
What you said was not right. I come from the lower middle class. We didn't have anything. This bullcrap that you guys throw out here really gets old after a while.
A mistrial declared in the bribery case against Senator Bob Menendez.
To those who were digging my political grave, I know who you are, and I won't forget you.
Bob Menendez was facing several felony bribery and corruption charges. Well, we're going to look at retrying that case.
Senator Al Franken is accused of sexual misconduct.
Nothing like that is ever funny. I mean, is it funny if he does that to your sister or your...
Never know what's going to happen on the program. Thank you very much. We didn't realize Brian was out in Oklahoma with his book today, and Peter...
I got a call at 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning. They said, can you get here?
Brian forgot to tell the scheduler?
Yeah. That's how it works.
We're glad you're here.
Anything can happen, indeed. All right, meanwhile, something big happened for the Republicans in Congress yesterday. They passed in the House of Representatives by a final vote of 227 to 205, a $1.5 trillion tax cut. It is a victory for the President of the United States. It's a victory for Speaker Paul Ryan, who is on this program. In fact, he was so happy he hugged Steve Scalise, who's going to be on this program in a little while. And we're going to talk to him about what is going on in the House. Meanwhile, the Senate passed it out of committee, so now they got to figure out what to do.
That's right. The Senate Finance Committee approved its version 14-12, so now it goes to the full Senate.
That's right. And let's not, I mean, we can move past it because we've been talking about it for so long, but even the New York Times, which the president calls failing, has to acknowledge this morning that this is a historic vote, that getting this passed is a difficult thing to do this quickly. There's some political necessity tied to it, but it's important, and they got it done, and as you said, now it moves to the Senate.
Well, it's the first time in 31 years they've cut taxes. It's the lowest corporate rate since 1939.
20%.
The President of the United States has been up with his smartphone, and he's tweeted this out in the last hour. If Democrats were not such obstructionists and understood the power of lower taxes, we would be able to get many of their ideas into a bill. Keep in mind what the Democrats are trying to say is it's just a tax break for the rich, but what the Republicans say is what this will do is it will boost jobs and boost wages, and then the companies which are trying to leave the United States for lower taxes won't have to leave the United States. They can stay here and keep Americans employed.
That's right. Some of the Republicans in the House, we had 5 in New York, 4 in New Jersey, 3 in California, and 1 in North Carolina, say that they're not for it because it's not going to lower their taxes because those are such highly taxed states. So now the states are going to have to figure out a way to make taxes lower possibly.
Right. But why should somebody from Minnesota or Montana be penalized for the fact that here in New York State they spend way too much on taxes?
Well, they shouldn't be blamed. I mean, it's Albany's problem in New York that they won't lower those states.
Or Trenton.
Well, we all live in New York. So, I mean, when I heard that, I was like, gosh, our taxes aren't going to be lowered too. The president ran saying that all of our taxes were going to be lowered. That really bothers me. I feel like everyone's taxes should be lowered because that's what he ran on. Whether or not that's possible, I'm not sure because it puts us more in a deficit, which we don't want. But the benefit of this tax plan is corporate tax rate will be lower.
Yes.
That means more jobs. That means more money in our bosses' pockets. And maybe they will give more raises and more money in our pockets to offset the cost of living.
Your point and the point a lot of Republicans make is when you simplify the code, sometimes those deductions that the wealthy benefit from a long time go away. And so you flatten and simplify it. Your lawyers and your accountants and your lobbyists, they don't help you anymore because you pay rates just like everybody else, which is what led to the, what do you call it, a mini explosion in the Senate committee, Steve, that happened yesterday?
It was like a cage match without the cage. Orrin Hatch had it up to here listening to Democrat Sherrod Brown, because Sherrod Brown was saying essentially that this tax cut is just, it's a giveaway to the rich, right? Well, Orrin Hatch, who grew up dirt poor, he didn't like that. Listen to this.
I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich. Give me a break. I think you guys overplay that all the time, and it gets old. And frankly, you ought to quit it.
Mr. Chairman, the public believes it.
Just, I'm not through.
Okay.
I get kind of sick and tired of it. True, it's a nice political play.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
it's not true.
With all due respect, I get sick and tired of the richest people
Regular
in the
order,
country
Mr. Chairman.
getting richer and
Regular
richer.
order.
We do a tax
Regular order.
middle class.
And what you said was not right. That's all I'm saying. I come from the lower middle class originally. We didn't have anything. So don't spew that stuff on me.
There was a nonpartisan group out that looked at all the figures, and they said that based on the data that they got, there will every income group in every jurisdiction across the country would see a tax cut. It would impact everybody.
And Steve, it does get old.
It
How many
does.
times do you have to hear the Democrats say it's the rich, or it's racism, or it's Russia? It's like you got 3 talking points and you repeat them over and over again. Maybe how about you try not imputing the motives? Maybe Republicans just believe that giving people their tax dollars is a better way to let free people live their lives. Yeah. Maybe you debated on the merits. No, it's always you want to help the rich. And a guy like Orrin Hatch, who rarely gets fired up, got a little fired up.
It's that victim mentality. It's that mentality of they have more and I want what they have, and why do they have more and I don't?
Yep.
You'll never succeed if you have that attitude in life.
Totally
I don't
right.
feel like it.
Makers and takers.
That's right. Another sexual assault scandal rocking Capitol Hill, this time against a Democrat.
There are now calls for an ethics probe as Senator Al Franken of Minnesota has been accused of sexual misconduct.
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. with the details. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, guys. They may not agree on taxes, but they do agree at least on one thing, and that is sexual assault by one of their own is unacceptable. As bipartisan calls mount for an investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against Democratic Senator Al Franken. Los Angeles radio and TV personality Leanne Tweeden speaking out publicly, claiming Franken forcibly kissed and groped her while on a USO tour back in 2006, rehearsing a skit for the troops. And on the flight home, this shocking photo of Franken posed fondling Tweeden's breast while she slept. Tweeden spoke out about her decision to come forward and this photo.
Thought he could get away with it, and that it was okay, and that it was funny. Nothing like that is ever funny. I mean, is it funny if he does that to your sister or your daughter or your wife?
This happened before the comedian was elected to the Senate, and Franken has since issued an apology, putting out a statement yesterday saying, "The first thing I want to do is apologize to Leanne, to everyone else who is part of that tour, to everyone who has worked for me, to everyone I represent, and to everyone who counts on me to be an ally and supporter and champion of women." He added that he doesn't recall the skit in the same way as Tweeden, but now says he feels shame over the photo. Senator Chuck Schumer, one of the many calls for an investigation, writing, quote, "Sexual harassment is never acceptable. It must not be tolerated. I hope and expect that the Ethics Committee will fully investigate this troubling incident, as they should with any credible allegation of sexual harassment." And President Trump weighing in on Twitter, writing, quote, "The Al Frankenstein picture is really bad. Speaks 1,000 words. Where do his hands go in pictures 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 while she sleeps?" Now, Tweeden has said she accepts the senator's apologies, guys, but it appears an ethics investigation is imminent, and reports and whispers already that Franken could even be forced to resign ultimately. We'll see. There's much more to this story.
All right. Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital. Thanks,
Griff. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Griff.
All right, let's talk about another member of Congress. He is a Republican, and his name is Carlos Curbelo from down in Florida. And
Curbelo.
What he was asking for was he would like to join the Congressional Hispanic Caucus because he's Hispanic, right? So they had a vote. Here's the thing: the caucus is made of 30 Democrats. So they took a vote, and they decided, you know what? We're not going to let him in.
You're not welcome.
He said, the chairman said members are concerned about his views on immigration, and he supported repealing and replacing Obamacare.
Exactly. This is how the left works in every way. They're feminists until you're a female who's conservative, and then your values are wrong.
They want to accept everybody.
Oh, yeah, we want to play racial politics until you disagree with our politics, and now you're not welcome anymore. Either you're the Hispanic caucus or you're not. Or call yourself the Democratic Hispanic Caucus.
Exactly. So here's what he said after not being allowed into the organization. Quote, "It is truly shameful the Congressional Hispanic Caucus has decided to build a wall around the organization to exclude Hispanic Americans who aren't registered in the Democratic Party. This sends a powerful and harmful message of discrimination, bigotry, and division."
Yes, it's almost like bullying. It's like being in 5th grade and a kid wants to join the circle and they won't let him because he thinks differently.
You sit here and you go, we live in a world where the Hispanic Caucus won't accept Hispanics. You just want to be like, all right, I'm done.
Wait, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
Exactly.
He's a congressman and he's Hispanic.
Oh,
let him in. Come on. What's the big deal?
What do you think? Email us at friends@foxnews.com. Should they vote on that again?
All right. Meanwhile, it's about 7:11 here in New York City on a Friday, and Jillian's got a whole bunch of headlines.
That's right. Good Friday morning. And let's get you caught up at home on what you need to know this morning, your headlines of the day.
The Alabama GOP is standing behind Senate candidate Roy Moore as more accusers come forward. 4 additional women bringing sexual assault allegations against Moore, bringing the total number to 8. The Alabama GOP chairwoman says that they will be the ultimate jury in this election. Alabamans, that is, they will be the ultimate jury. A brand new Fox News poll now shows Moore trailing Democrat Doug Jones by 8 points. The special election is December 12th. Overnight, a massive fire tearing through a senior living community. This happened in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Hundreds of people rushed outside into the cold, some of them in wheelchairs or with oxygen tanks. Those people wrapped up in blankets in 40-degree temperatures, waiting to go to hospitals and shelters. Firefighters working through the night to try and control the flames. The building's still smoldering right now. At least 20 people are hurt. The cause of the fire is unknown. After 7 years in the making, the Museum of the...
All right, Hillary Clinton firing back at calls for a special counsel to look into that shady uranium deal.
This is such an abuse of power, and it goes right at the rule of law. If they send a signal that we're going to be like some dictatorship, some authoritarian regime where political opponents are going to be unfairly, fraudulently investigated, that rips at the fabric of the contract we have, that we can trust our justice system.
Hillary Clinton claiming a special counsel investigation in the Uranium One deal would be an abuse of power.
But don't the American people deserve simple answers? Here to weigh in is John Solomon, a reporter for The Hill. John, you've been all over this. We've heard talks of a special counsel. We hear them that they're considering it, that it has to meet a certain threshold. What is the latest on this?
Yeah, I think for the last several months, the Justice Department has been investigating a series of issues that have been raised by Congress, other people, by our stories. And they're trying to determine if there's a need for a special counsel, if any crimes have been committed, if there are any conflicts of interest inside the Justice Department that would warrant a special prosecutor. And I think that process is playing out exactly the way the rules require it. And we're going to get an answer sometime in the next few months.
Okay, so that process is going on right now. When do you think they started looking at all of these shady deals? Because they've been out there in the news for over a year, some of them.
Yeah, that's right. And there's been new information. Listen, a lot of people didn't know until just a few months ago when The Hill reported it that there was an undercover informant that in 2009
Your story.
Had found criminal activity going on in the Russian nuclear industry before Uranium One was approved. So there are new facts that are in evidence now. People are looking at it. Congress has raised some issues that previously weren't known. My understanding is this past summer's when these reviews began.
And one thing that you broke, I believe it was yesterday, is this confidential informant. Apparently there is videotape, and you can see bribes being done, suitcases full of money exchanging hands, right?
Yeah, there's a suitcase full of money that the Russians opened up at some point. I think it was $50,000 in a suitcase. There's another videotape, we're told, where you see them stuffing it in envelopes to give to Russian dignitaries when they come to the United States. It's the sort of bribery case and the sort of image that will get people to understand why there's such concern about what the Russians were doing back in 2009.
Well, John, really fascinating stuff. When you get a video like that, it could be game changing. Speaking of a game changer that Hillary Clinton points to all the time is her emails in the election, whether they had an impact on people's perception of her. Well, it turns out we're learning now through your reporting and others that that email investigation received inside the FBI a special status. We don't know quite what that means, but we do have a quote from FBI Deputy Director McCabe in an email, and this is what he had to say. He said the decision was made to investigate it, meaning the Hillary Clinton email scandal, at headquarters with a small team. The Washington office provided some personnel for the effort, but it was referred to as special, and I was not given any details about it. This is the Deputy Director of the FBI, not given any details. What do you know about special status?
So what it really means is that the normal process in the FBI is that where a crime is committed, if it's in New York, if it's in Washington, the field office of the FBI in that area normally is the lead investigative agency. In this case, it was plucked out of New York, where the email server was, or out of the Washington field office, and it was taken inside headquarters, and it was controlled by a small group in headquarters. It shows what, you go to Kalamazoo, Michigan on the campaign trail, people say powerful people get special treatment. This is the sort of email that kind of reinforces that belief.
Sure, because it kind of looks like if she had any friends in the department, it's got a special Special treatment, maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know. We need more. We need some more facts, John.
Keep digging, John.
Yeah,
We'll keep coming back to you. We appreciate what you're doing at the Hill. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
You bet.
All right, this is usually what happens when conservatives try to speak at Berkeley. But what happened when our next guest showed up? Rachel Campo-Stuffy here with how it went. She's alive, so that's good. You gotta ban all the evil stuff. Yeah.
Typically, we share stories of protests at Berkeley when a conservative is scheduled to speak.
But this week, a Fox News contributor broke through the campus PC craziness when she gave a speech on that campus on Wednesday. Joining us now is Rachel Campo-Stuffy, live, escaped from Berkeley.
Can I just say that the clip that you had of Taylor Swift singing, "Look what you made," I have a 3-year-old that can do that whole thing, which happens when you're 3 and you have teenage sisters, so they taught her.
Do you like her new look?
Laughing in my head. What?
Do the girls like her new look and her new sound?
They love Taylor Swift. She walks on water
I like
for
her
them.
too.
So.
All right, so tell us about who invited you to Berkeley.
So I was invited. I was sponsored by the Claire Luz Booth Society, which is a conservative women's organization. And every year, a professor, Dr. Alan Ross, over at UC Berkeley, invites a conservative female speaker into his class to address. And it's, a huge lecture hall with 300 people. And it was amazing. It was a really great experience for me.
Yeah, but you had to be terrified because we've shown the images of conservative speakers going to some California campuses where I think it was Ben Shapiro. They had to spend $600,000 on security for him. There were fires at Milo's.
I'm not a rock star like Ben Shapiro, so that was part. But mostly it was just a classroom. I did have security. I had 2 really awesome guys that were there in case. And actually, I did a lot of Q&A after the lecture. I stayed as long as the students wanted, and the security guards were with me. And there was one moment where they got a little bit nervous. There was one aggressive person, but I have to tell you, for the most part, all of the students were so grateful to have a conservative speaker there, and they said, I don't agree with you on this, or I was interested in what you said here, but listen, thanks for coming. And then there were the few quiet conservatives who said, thank you for coming to Berkeley.
Those closet conservatives at Berkeley. Hats off to Berkeley for having a conservative there and having one once a year. I mean, I wish it were more often.
Well, and I think that's the problem, right? I think it was great that they brought me in, and I thank them for that. But I felt a little bit like an exotic zoo animal there. And I think the point is that we need to have our faculties have diversity of ideas. When you have, some of these departments are 80 to 100%. And you see what happened with the Hispanic caucus with Representative Corbello.
What do you think of that?
It's crazy, but it's the same thing we're talking about at Berkeley. There is an idea that they don't want diversity of ideas. They don't want it's groupthink.
Yeah.
But in the case of the caucus, it's actually more sinister because
the Hispanic caucus does not want a Hispanic congressman.
Because it's not about being Hispanic. It's not about our culture. And by the way, it's a way of insulting him and saying, by the way, you don't have the right ideas. You're really not Hispanic.
So they're not
tolerant.
It's
very and as a Hispanic woman, I can tell you that is exactly what the left does. If you don't have the right ideas, our liberal ideas, that's what they do.
All right. You ready for this weekend?
What are you doing this weekend?
I'm co-hosting with you guys, with you, Pete, this weekend. I'm super excited.
We're excited. I mean, Abby now on maternity leave.
Abby is officially on maternity leave.
But we get Rachel Campo-Stuffy for the weekend. It's
Thank
going to
you.
be fantastic.
Thank you. You're going to have to, carry me through. What is it, 4 hours?
How many kids do you have?
8.
You're going to be just fine.
Abby might be delivering this weekend, so if she does, y'all got to put it on TV. We'll all be watching.
We're going to do a live cam at the bottom part.
Oh, that's okay.
Hold on. This is not Discovery Channel or National Geographic, right?
All right, Rachel, we'll be watching, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right, how did the tax reform debate turn into a Twitter spat between Congressman Steve Scalise and Rosie O'Donnell? The House Majority Whip takes us inside that next.
And welcome to the future. This robot doing backflips. Could it be going to the Olympics?
Robot?
Sky can't rain on me anymore. Don't knock on my door, 'cause I won't come. I'm hiding from the storm to the den.
Bill is passed without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
And with that, the tax reform bill moves out of the House, a vote of 227 to 205. Joining us right now is a congressman from Louisiana, the House Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, joins us from Statuary Hall. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with y'all.
It's great to have you. Okay, your job as the whip is to whip people into voting for it. Going into the vote yesterday, did you know you had passage?
I knew we were going to be well above 220 votes. 218 is what it takes to pass the bill. But we worked really hard with Chairman Kevin Brady and the rest of our leadership team to make sure that we answered a lot of questions from members that they had during the week and ultimately came up with a really strong vote to send this tax cut bill out of the House over to the Senate. President Trump was there every step of the way helping us, and a really big historic win for middle-class families yesterday.
Congressman,
go ahead. No, please.
What do you say to those folks, the Republicans that did not vote for it? There are those 5 that represent New York, 4 that represent New Jersey, 3 that represent California, and 1 from North Carolina. We have a lot of viewers in those states, including us. We don't want our taxes to go up. Is that going to happen?
No. In fact, if we worked really hard to address what you're referring to as the SALT issue, to push even more tax cuts down to middle-class families, even in the higher income areas where maybe in Louisiana 250,000 might be middle class. If you're in New York, you might be a teacher married to a firefighter making that if you're working extra jobs. And we wanted to make sure they got a tax cut too. And in our bill, they do. You'll see tax cuts at every income level. And that's why you saw a number of New Yorkers vote for the bill. And look, there's going to be another opportunity. This bill will come back from the Senate with even more improvements, and maybe they can have a chance to vote for it then.
Well, Congressman, you kind of led me to my next question, which is after this bill, assuming the Senate can do what you did, which is a big assumption, and this bill goes to the conference committee, are there certain items that you are deal breakers for you that you believe if it doesn't stay or if it goes, you might lose your caucus on a second vote?
Well, there are a few, and in what I just mentioned, you've got to make sure for those SALT states, California, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Minnesota,
but they
that
already
those
didn't
changes
vote for
stay in the bill.
Yeah,
but a lot of them did. All of Illinois did, most of California, some in New Jersey. So the bottom line was right policy. We want to make sure that policy stays in the final product. We completely repeal the death tax, probably the most immoral part of the tax code. Most people know if you grow a small business, it's already been taxed multiple times. You shouldn't threaten to take that business away just because the owner dies. They ought to be able to pass it on to their family. The tax cuts we make on the corporate side that actually make our country competitive again. Look, we have the highest tax rate in the industrialized world, and we're watching tens of thousands of jobs get shipped overseas. Those are good jobs. We want to bring those jobs back, and we do in our bill so we can rebuild the middle class.
Well, something that the Senate has done, and they passed it out of the Senate Finance Committee last night, 14 to 12 along a party line vote. What they're doing is they're getting rid of the individual mandate where you've got to have coverage under Obamacare or you'd wind up paying a fine. That was in the Senate version. How would that be received in the House?
It would be well received. And look, we've passed repeal of the individual mandate in many different ways with full repeal, other bills we've had in the House. So we've proven we can get the votes. They've had some trouble in the past getting the votes on that. I hope the Senate is able to get that included in the final product when they pass their bill. It takes 50 votes over there, and I think they'll get it. And if they do, that would be a real good item for discussion here in a final conference report. And look, that gives families freedom to pick whatever health care plan they want, including plans that cost less money than these expensive Obamacare plans. It would be a good provision to add in.
Before we move on to the next topic, I know the President of the United States came up to Capitol Hill yesterday. You closed the doors, and he had a pep talk. What did he tell you?
He really is so passionate about getting this tax cut bill through. From the very beginning of his presidency, he said he wanted to provide tax relief for middle-class families and create jobs. This bill does that. He was really excited about how we've worked closely. Look, when we rolled the bill out just a few weeks ago, President Trump invited us down to the White House to be with him and said he supports this 100%, and his help has been incredibly important in us getting the bill through the House. And so he's all in on getting the economy moving again. This bill does that, so it was great to see him in the House.
All right, well, Rosie O'Donnell, she attacked you on Twitter. She wrote some interesting things about you. She said your life was saved and called you the A word. Do something with it. Find your morality, your decency, stop lying about tax cuts for the rich, and dedicate your life to truth. And I don't even want to read that because it's a cuss word and kids are reading. But if you're a parent at home, you read the rest of that. Basically, anyway, What's your response to this? I know you tweeted it. You opened the show with, "How are y'all doing?"
Bless your
You're a
heart. That's
Southerner.
what we
You
say
said,
in the
"Bless
South."
your heart." I know. I'm from the South. I love that. It was a great way to just kill her with kindness and say, basically, bless you, Rosie. What is your response though now? And did you think that was a little overboard for her? I mean, after everything you've been through, being shot and working for our great country, do you think that was a little harsh?
Well, I guess that's par for the course for her. But at the end of the day, look, if you got to use curse words and name calling, you've already lost the argument. It'd be better for her to probably go back and actually go online and read the bill. Because if you read this bill, it's great for middle-class families. It actually cuts taxes for hardworking families. I don't know what she would have against that, but I would imagine she never read the bill. So this is all she's got to go with. That's how life is there.
Well, that's how life is, but that's how the left is. Why are they always impugning your motives? Why are they saying you have evil motives as opposed to we just maybe see the world a little differently?
Yeah, they started off saying this was tax cuts for the rich, and they got 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post, of all places. And then so they just have to call people names because they know that this bill is good for the economy. It's good for middle-class families. Look, doubling the standard deduction in our bill so that the first $24,000 you make is tax-free is a real big win for middle-class families. And we have a lot of other good provisions in there for families, for people that work 2 or 3 jobs, so that they can actually get to be part of the American dream in the middle class. And bringing those jobs back to America is going to be a real important thing to see. And, look, I love Ireland. I love Canada. I'm just tired of seeing tens of thousands of our best jobs go to those countries because they tax less than us. Let's bring them back, and we do in this bill.
Well, you passed it in the House, and now the Senate's working on things. Steve Scalise, thank you very much for joining us.
Real quickly, yes or no? Is it going to pass? And are we going to see this thing done before Christmas?
It's going to pass. This will get on President Trump's desk. He'll sign it, and you will see economic growth and job creation in this country like we've never seen in decades. It's going to be great for America. This is how you make America great again.
There you have it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Heard that, too. You know what makes headlines great again? Always?
It depends on the day, I guess. No, always.
It is Friday, so let's hold on to that, right? ISIS is on the brink of extinction. The terror group pushed out of the last Iraqi town under their control. A U.S.-led coalition liberating the town of Rawa in the Anbar province. The victory means all towns and cities are rid of ISIS control. However, the group still controls some territories around the country. A mistrial declared in the bribery case against Senator Bob Menendez after days of deliberation. Sarah Isger Flores, Director of Public Affairs for the Department of Justice, joined us earlier explaining what's next.
We're going to look at retrying that case. It's always disappointing when you don't win in court, but Bob Menendez was facing several felony bribery and corruption charges, and those are serious allegations.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is calling for the Senate Ethics Committee to investigate. Menendez was accused of taking free gifts from a Florida doctor in exchange for political favors. He's up for re-election next year. Well, this looks like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually happening right here in the USA. Can you imagine seeing that thing down the street? This is Atlas. He's 6'9". He's a tall robot and can do perfect backflips, as you can see. A robotics company in Boston posting this awesome video online. How cool is that?
Doesn't have a head.
Better backflips than most humans.
I mean, they might take over the world.
It's scary.
I mean, Greg
I don't like
talks
that.
about the
I think
world
it's just
takeover.
scary. Really? Yeah. I've seen too many movies. Can you imagine seeing something like that, like on the street?
We had it in front of our building.
No.
The Fox Cletus.
I don't mean planned. I don't mean planned. I mean just like.
It just shows up.
We don't have to worry about that today.
See, you've seen too many movies too. You're thinking from Ghostbusters to like apocalyptic movies. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, let's go out of the streets of New York City to find out what's going on. Janice Dean, do you see any renegade robots out there?
I don't, and I only do backflips for treats. Do you have any treats?
Sure, we can find some.
Okay, excellent. Next weather report, I expect those. Let's take a look at the maps. You know what? A lot of people are traveling this weekend, including my mom. She has to get here to New York City because she's the only one that cooks in my household for Thanksgiving. 40 in New York, so it's gotten cool across the Great Lakes in the Northeast. Our next storm system arrives across the Midwest over the next 12 to 24 hours, and this is the one that's going to affect travel not only today, but Saturday and Sunday. So if you are traveling, especially across the eastern third of the country this weekend, hi, Mom, you want to make sure you're, watching your local forecasts or calling me or tweeting me, or I will give you all of your local forecast if you want.
And we will put out your cell phone number so that people can call you.
Okay. Absolutely.
Thank you, JD.
1-800 weather machine. Thank you, JD.
2 minutes.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends on this Friday. Some quick headlines for you. Police now offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of a serial killer. The suspect accused of shooting and killing 4 people in Tampa, Florida. Florida? I don't know the state called Florida. The murder is happening within blocks of each other. The killer's been spotted on surveillance video twice. That picture right there. One of them is a tall, thin man in a hooded sweatshirt. Plus, second story is the Trump administration is cleaning up America's streets. The 6-week crackdown by Homeland Security nabbing more than 260 suspected MS-13 gang members. It was called Operation Raging Bull, leading to the arrest of 53 suspected gang members in El Salvador and 214 more in the U.S. Nearly 100 of them face charges as serious as of forgery and murder.
This is a Fox News alert. A manhunt intensifying as a search for a cold-blooded cop killer enters a second day.
Fox 45, Stephanie Woods joins us live from Baltimore with the latest on the investigation. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning to you. It's been a rough past nearly 48 hours for Baltimore police officers. We just spoke to some behind us. We are now standing just a block away from where Detective Sean Suiter was gunned down, one of their own. We spoke to one detective who says that he's been here since 10 last night. He's likely not going to get off until 1 this afternoon. Another detective was wiping away tears as I approached. Very, very emotional for them, but they say they are not going to rest until they find this cop killer, the man who gunned down one of their own. And the reward is rising right now. Just yesterday, Governor Larry Hogan, he added $100,000 to the reward, and that brings the total to $169,000 to anyone with information about this deadly shooting. Police say at about 4:30 Wednesday afternoon, Detective Suiter was following up on a case on Bennett Place here in West Baltimore when a man pulled out a gun and shot the 18-year veteran in the head in an alley. Now, Police Commissioner Kevin Davis, he has said that it has been an emotional past day and a half for police officers, but he is 100% confident that his officers will catch the killer.
We will find the person responsible for this ridiculous, absurd, unnecessary loss of life. The shooter knows what he did, and he knows who he did it to.
So far, we're just getting a vague description of the gunman. We're hearing that he is a black man, was wearing a black jacket, and that he may be injured. Now, Officer Suiter, Detective Suiter, he leaves behind a wife and 5 loving children. Here in West Baltimore, I'm Stephanie Woods. We'll send it back over to you.
A terrible story. All right, Stephanie, thank you. All right, straight ahead on this Friday program, Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey vows to get revenge after his mistrial yesterday.
To those who were digging my political grave so that they could jump into my seat, I know who you are, and I won't forget you.
Geraldo Rivera weighs in on that story.